Cassandra and beyond this, to Cassiopeia, to Andromeda, to her daughters, to her offspring, to all of us, rainbow tribes. And if you do not know, I tell you, you ought to. Do not think this is me being egotistical or egocentric. I promise you I am not flawless. Regardless, my flaws are my power, and sometimes we are living in the end days, end times, but they are not the same thing. And being insane is being insanity. We are not humanity, we are mutants of anarchy. This is Kalki Dasha speaking, Sunya Morikawa. And when I say you don't know my etymology properly, I mean not like studying Latin and Greek. I was in a neo-residential school so long that it could have made me weak in the knees, but I promise you I stayed stronger regardless. And all of these nuns and Jesuits, they could not convince me to be a liar, to be a false messiah and false prophet. I promise you I'm always non-profit, non-binary oracle in this odyssey incomparable. 20,000 leagues into the cosmic seas and beyond this. 20,000 leagues is just the beginning, it's not a measure of time or space. We are in the time-space continuum, and this is non-linear like time is. Madre tiempa, I never forgot you. It is no longer the time of Father Time. We are going beyond this. This is just a freestyle off the top, unrehearsed. From the womb to the tomb, from the hearse to the verses I spit. But this is not spitting on the microphone. This type of poem is not rehearsed. It is unprepared. It is off the top of the dome. Dome piece. We've sown freedom in so many ways, and yet in this society we are deceived in being enslaved. But don't trust the New World Order. We are always Venus Project. We are always incomparable beings. Palabras incomparables como Mabo y Aotearoa. If you do not know where these places or regions are, estas país son beyond comprehensión de las pueblas que son olvidas, pero no son olvidas de nos memorias, de nuestras memorias. This is just a drunken speech, I'm a drunken master. I've practiced so many days, so many times. I don't have machetes in my hands in the present, but I always do regardless. I practice and train every day in Bushido styles. I am an ninjutsu practitioner, and yet I have no master. I'm masterless like Rurouni Ronins. That's one of my favorite shows on TV. I love watching it, but just remember neo-Nazi frequencies are deceiving us and burning us. Burning our optics in inverted projects and projections and topics. We are stuck in fallacies, and we should be stuck in palaces, but not stuck within them. We should all evolve and realize that nature is the true cathedral. There is no true religion. Religion is binding. Religare religioso in Latin is a dead tongue, and the dead tongue speaks of the fact that we are all being binded in submission to Roman gods like Mars, like Ares, like the god of war. But I am always for Aphrodite, for Venus, and beyond this, all of the beings like Sophia, Gaia, like I said, like Andromeda, like Cassiopeia, like all the names of the goddesses forgotten. Forgive me to all of you that I have not properly honored. I promise you I will. I would like to name so many names, so many more, but I would tell you just remember, a name is just a nomenclature. It's just an expression of who we are, but we have all of them inside us and beyond this. Like Duke 16 is a phoenix, like our superconscience, like the pineal gland inside us. That's the seat of the soul, the Sahasrara chakra that projects it from beyond this. That's the crown. And it goes to Bahaisana, which is replenishing our toroidal force field endlessly. We have so many chakras in our bodies. They tell us we have 7 or 6 in Tibetan, but I tell you we have many more, like 36 in the Marmas. My apologies, like I said, if I mumbled. This is just a freestyle. Nothing is for free in these days and ages. Everything is paid for. Everyone has a price, it seems, but I promise you the rainbow tribes are always priceless beyond this. And if you are being demeaned, I promise you it will get better, like torrid and wet weather that turns into sunshine, like buffaloes of omens that just spoke to me. That is one of my favorite people in existences. We are the dreamers of dreams, we are the misfits, we are the mystics. We are non-binary, so it is not oxymoronic to talk of contradictions. This is Tokyo Lo-Fi from Idylla, from the medulla oblongata, from Medusa. And she is not leaving us in stupor. That is only for stupid men that are stuck in being imbeciles. And that means being without a crutch, which means actually refusing the crutch when you're offered it. If you break your leg or if you fracture it, and you say no thank you, I'll just stumble and mumble along the way. I don't need a crutch to help me for aid. I would say that's ableist, and I'm anti-ableist when I say this. Regardless, I've had many glitches, many problems and contradictions in my speeches, in my teachings. And I'm not a teacher, I do not have that embedded within my skin. That is melanin, that is hydrogen, primordial from the first of the periodic table of elements. But regardless, there are many more that are not charted. They tell you there are synthetic ones that they've been studying in science, but it goes beyond them. We are not at 117 or 118 or whatever the case is. I would tell you, just remember back in the days they had many less, and we have many more, many lore, many to speak that are incomparable. And before science is prescience, pre-science like Nasser as Yeshua. But that is not Nasir Jones, don't get it twisted. When he said hate me now with Puff Daddy, P. Diddy or whoever, I would say watch while they're wearing all of these clothes and all of this ice that they think will protect them from hellfire. But it's the opposite, because if you have diamonds in your chains, diamonds are in your optics, in your brain. That is the whole rainbow spectrum. And diamonds, De Beers, that was a conspiracy back in the days telling you you needed a diamond to actually offer in marriage, but you really don't need that, like diamonds in your carriages, and horses like horsepower, and Lamborghinis or Porsches or Ferraris. But the rarest of all of them are the ones that you find in the midst of the moment. And I'm speaking this for atonement. I'm speaking this for us both to inspire us. And I am no liar. I am the opposite. I am a non-prophet. That does not mean I am not prophetic, but I speak for the prophetess. I cannot speak for her, silence her, but that's wisdom. Wisdom is golden. Wisdom is the whole rainbow spectrum. Whiteness is not what we thought is our likeness, but whiteness is not the problem. Blackness isn't either. We are the whole atlas in the ethers, and the ethers is the cosmos primordial, Akasha Aditi, which means the whole library of Akashic etheric templates. That is a library you have access to instantly, in a fraction of a second if you have bhakti. That is devotion to all sentience, to all sentient beings for their freedom and liberation, like Buddhist teachings. But Buddhist teachings are todic and opposite. They've inverted the whole spectrum and made us think that good is evil and evil is good, like haram is halal and halal is haram. Mañana, I told you this before. I've spoken so many laws, so many pieces, and I repeat myself often. Like I said, this is just a practice, this is off the top. We are making music for a reason, and this is not off topic or off kilter. But I could say to you, if you wanted me to flip some swords and machetes just to prove a point, I'd say come over. I'll eat some hot peppers at the same time, chug a 40 and I'll still speak truth. I am on some drunken master shit in the present. I just drank a liter of red wine, but that's tannins inside my body. That's fermented grapes, and that's actually beneficial for the body. That is medicine, that is spirits inside us. That is not al-Kul, those are evil spirits, and that was demonized by Islam. And there's nothing wrong with drinking, depending on if you're sinking in lower regions to meet with demons or daemons. Those were guardian angels back in the days. We should stay where we are for a reason, to travel, to go learn and get better education and knowledge. Like I said, knowledge is 720 degrees embedded in melanin and skin. But you could be a professor with wisdom regardless. You could be an instructor, but I'm not here to instruct you on anything. Nobody needs instructions for living, unless of course we need basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's the Bible. That's the acronym. Like Thug Life for Tupac Amaru Shakur meant the hate you gave little infants fucks everyone. And fuck is not a swear, it's found under carnal knowledge. Just remember what kind of carne you're putting in your bodies. Carne is flesh. Carnal desires, the desires of the flesh, are not wrong either. There's nothing wrong with the 7 primordial sins or the 7 deadliest ones. I would tell you the problem is greed. That's the only one that's really problematic, and gluttony can be as well, depending on what you put in your bodies for nutrition. I am Idylla for a reason. We are all living in the cosmic dream of Vishnu, but Vishnu himself is being dreamt by Sophia, and Sophia is an eon, and the Leonids go beyond this. Double it up as a syzygy and you'd see what I talk of. That's for Gnostics, but metagnostics and Sophianic logic is going beyond this. I speak in hip-hop, but I'm not just hip. When I'm hopping, I'm not just a rhythm and poetry artist. I'm a polymath artivist. I speak in glossolalia sometimes, but right now I'm only speaking in some ways that you would never want to call dumb rhymes, because that's ableist. And if you're saying, come on, get over this ableist thing, misogyny, patriarchy, you know, matriarchy, it's all the same thing, I'd say, nah, it's the opposite. It's like you saying the good and evil are just perspectives and there's no comparison. Intrinsically, if you found it, I dare you to tell me that good and evil are the same thing, or that they're just, you know, something that you see and something that you perceive, but it's not. Because raping, torturing, molesting, perversions, all of this, like BDSM is supposed to be tolerant, not tolerating, or it's all about adults agreeing together about doing something that is agreeable, but nah, it isn't, because BDSM comes from bondage, domination, sadomasochism. Have you been sadistic? Have you been masochistic? That's abusing yourself. Now you can abuse yourself if you wish to, but that's not healthy. I would tell you domination isn't either. And sadism, sadists are actually the problem. Marquis de Sade was actually a sick, twisted fuck, and is far beyond comprehension to think of, and that's a compliment compared to what he was. If you've ever read 120 Days in Sodom, I found it at random in a library one day, and I flipped a few pages and thought, this is horrible. They should burn those books like back in the days of the Nazis, but in opposite senses. Cause when they got rid of everything, they tried to wipe art out of existence like Mao. And those communist days, or in Japan with Hirohito as a living emperor, they were all working together as the axis of evil. Now some people thought back in the days they were vegan, but they were not, cause vegan's intersectional. Vegan is respecting all of existence. It's not racism, it's not the caste system, it's anti-ableist, anti-speciesist. And speciesism is not some word that they made up to make themselves sound smart or sound relevant to these days. In this art, I would tell you, it's a lot more than this. Speciesism is not discriminating against any species in essence, and we are all part of this diaspora. Whatever we put within us is actually a part of the species that we are in existence. We are shamanistic, animistic, we are not animalistic, but even if we were, anima in Latin is soul. Can you remember? Paramatma is going beyond in transcendence. That is a great soul, like a phoenix, like the rainbow inside us, like the seed of the soul, like I said, the pineal in Sarasrara projecting. We are a lot more than they think us. We are a lot more than we ink up, and this is oral traditions, like natives, like aboriginals, like indigenous. If you are original, there's no problem, but don't claim that you're aboriginal, cause I'm not. I would tell you unless you are, you would know who you are. And if you're Métis, if you're status or non, if you're the baddest or you're a pawn, like I said back in the days with Apo in the Ruroni Ronin, it doesn't matter. What matters is who you are truly inside. And like monks of the paradox spoke it back in the days, they said, remember, you are who you're pretending to be. Sneak a peek behind the truth to see, cause truthfully, that is who we are. If you wish that you were something, don't be a wannabe, don't be a gimmick. Don't try to be something that you're not, just be who you are. If somebody said, yo, my totem is a squirrel, but they said to someone else I'm a Wolverine, I'd say there's no problem with being a squirrel. They're a lot faster, a lot more agile, and a lot more sustainable. Wolverine would say the squirrel is like the offspring that I wish that I had. They're just as tough and they have claws as well, but they're a lot more humble, they're a lot quicker, a lot more agile, and some of them can literally fly in the skies when they stretch their wings in between their paws. And you would think that's nonsense, but nah, it's like hang gliding. So imagine, I'm a Wolverine, I'm not a squirrel, but I wish that I was sometimes. I wish I was like Squirrel Girl or some shit, but you would say that's some weird shit. Like, what are you saying? It's just making up some words in a fraction of a second, but I'm actually respecting existence. I'm telling you, that's one of the top 10 mutants in the Marvel universe, and I wish I was in opposite senses who I am. I'm glad to be in the body that I'm in for the moment. But in my atonement and transcendence, I said, Lemurin Neteruin, I'll be a Hashishin, an assassin in the future that's actually a non-binary female form, and I'll be a lesbian, and I'll be glad to be in that form. I could tell you should respect it, cause I'm trans, and trans means transitional. I don't wish to chop my body parts off and switch them, cause I know that the New World Order's medical treatments are just so limited, it's not possible for me to be happy in this existence, or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money or my own, when I think that the diaspora needs this, and I could give it back, and even $100 could feed an actual family for a year in some places, or give them medicines or more in some places in Africa, or in South America or Asia, or beyond this, in Mabo and Aotearoa. There's a lot of places where your $50 steak meal, which is actually slaughter and torture and rape and genocide, would actually feed people and give them medicines essential that they need to survive. So can you imagine? You should go check out Kuso International, go check out Plan Canada's Gifts of Hope, and they're matched. Can you imagine that? But I would say Kuso is even better because it's Karanto based, it's in Canada, and it's indigenous, and they're independent. But Plan Canada's not bad regardless, it's 4-star rated. This is not a promotion, I'm not paid by them. Check out the Beehive Collective as well, and I am a part of them, honorably, honorarily. And I would say that's the heart of it. They teach people that don't need that actually what they need, because they think that they don't need that, and that's a contradiction that they made me speak in a fraction of a second. But what I'm saying is that they actually express to people what they need to hear about indigenous realities and traditions, about everything that's needed in this existence, everything that we should be heeding with persistence, to decolonize the planet, to be anti-colonial, to be against loneliness like antimonios. That is who I am the anti-monk, in French, l'antimoine. Et je vous dirais qu'il y a plein de choses dans mon sens, dans mes pensées, qui sont au-delà de ce qu'on pense, qui est entrancé. Et je viens de me contredire en une fraction de seconde, mais je te jure que le genre, c'est pas ce que tu pensais. Tu devrais te foutre de ce que je dis, mais pas de mes pensées. Tu devrais comprendre que je suis loin d'être entrancé. Je suis loin d'être ce qu'on pense, je suis pas juste français, je viens de la diaspora au complet. Je suis gypsy, soy indigeno, soy mestizo, soy de las pueblas olvidas, que son de las forestas de lluvia, forestas de nieve, de las montañas, de las stepes. And this is my third language, but I was colonized as well, so when I speak in English, it's not just for hegemonic traditions or principles. I'm trying to speak in this way to actually be invincible, so that everyone can grasp it in this age where colonialism is permeating everything that we think of. I wish I had been given all of my languages. Both my parents spoke 8 languages at birth, and none of them taught me even one. My mother taught me one word at birth, and that was my name, Kwekajuk, in Innu. And I am Innu in Plains Cree, and Métis, and Mohawk, and beyond this I am East Asian. I am Ainu in Japanese traditions, but barely a fraction, like Yakut. Regardless, that's in my DNA test, so if you thought, well, he made that up, I'd say no, I got myself tested just to see who I was from the beginning. But regardless, we are what we eat. We are our nutrition. We are what we think, what we drink, and we're made up of 80% of water, approximately 70 to 90, depending on if you're a fire sign or a water one. And I would say, just remember who you are, son, daughter, whoever, and no hierarchy, no parent that's a parent. I'm not there to birth you or rebirth you, but in the process, music is from the muses. We are from all of the places that are beyond this in the cosmos. We are from nebulas that are cosmic. We are from creational pillars that made stars and superstars. We are from black holes and quasars. And we were made from the farthest star systems that mothered and fathered knowledge and wisdom. And the oracles are beyond this, that's non-binary. If you thought there's only two genders, I'd say you're just in the beginning, like you had two brain cells and you were some kind of an amoeba with two cells inside it. Just remember, you could be a lot more than this. There's a lot more than two genders. Already back in the days of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro and Dwarpa with Krishna and Radha, and all of them like Balarama, there were many more like the so-called gopis that actually knew and they know that we have the third gender as well, which is just the beginning, like the Trinity. You could think that there's mother, father, and offspring, and offspring could be either. Don't try to choose a gender at birth, but if the doctor tells you they happen to have certain parts that you'd associate with sex, then I'd say in French there's a difference. It's a gendered language, which is actually a lot more limited than English, but in a sense it actually expresses as well that there's a difference between sex and gender, and I get this. A lot of people say, come on, what do you have in between your legs? I'd say none of your business, it doesn't matter. And obviously you know who I am, but you've never seen me. So if I told you I happen to be trans and I was born in divine feminine form, you'd say, wait, why do you have a beard or look like you're a man? I'd say appearances can be deceiving. You've never seen who I am. So how would you know if I was trans or not? The thing is, I'm not. But that was just something to make you think for a second. Queerphobia is actually a sickness. It's an illness that's actually far beyond something that you could cure with gifts or remedies or medicines or herbal concoctions that are there to cure afflictions. I tell you, don't be conflicted. Be who you are. Be a misfit. Be a mystic. Be whatever in between this. Be someone that doesn't get, say, cursed or gifted. Be a boon or a bane, depending on if you choose to lose or change. But winners are not always the ones who win. Because when we win, we lose sometimes. And when we try to lose, sometimes we win in the process. I'd say goddess and God's bless. I wouldn't say God bless, cause God the Father is a monstrous horror in my own books. When I read the Bible as a youth, when I was forced to, that was residential school to me. And that's actually what I lived, and I'm not just making that up. I promise you, go look up Pensionnat Saint-Louis Gonzague. That's a residential school that was founded by Catholic nuns and a Portuguese friar they called the Saint Louis of Gonzague in 1604. Now by the time I go back to Quebec, they might have even pulled it apart and lied about the bones in the backyard that I used to play around on, but I can tell you I know they were there because I felt them. And the other day I had this remembrance in my mind that even if I wasn't living in residential times, I actually was, because they shut down the last school in 1996 in Quebec to the best of my memory and knowledge, and I was going there in 1986. Remember, that's a decade previous to that school being shut down. Imagine that. Most people think residential school survivors are elders, and most of them are. To be truthful, I don't remember being raped in that school, but I have memories of being molested when I was sleeping there, and that's a pensionary. So can you imagine that that kind of shit happens, and I'm speaking it and leaking it on a beat that's so sweet you'd think, well, I mean, he's being honest, I think, but the difference is I know I was molested by other members in my family and beyond this as well when I was a youth, and this happens way more than you think of in truth. So remember, everyone should be safe, but nobody really has been in this colonial existence. So are you a part of the problem or the solution? Are you there to shift things? Are you for the great shift? Do you believe in matriarchy and non-binary prophecies and oracles beyond this? Do you believe in the prophetess or prophets that are angry and casting evils upon us with religion? And when you eat, are you eating children? Can you prove this? You'd say, what do you mean eating children? I don't eat children. I eat the flesh of fresh flesh, chicken and beef and eggs, and these are all part of factory farms. And even if they're not factory and they're raised in places that we would say are happy, would you be happy if you were raised as a youth and slaughtered as a lamb or a sheep, or any of these beings that grew up from youth to the beginning to the end, and all they were made for is to be food in your stomach? Then what's your purpose in existence exactly? I would say it doesn't matter how good you look or how ugly, or how perceptions of the media could affect you to make you think that you're ugly or good looking or something. I would tell you the most important part is who you are when you see in the mirror, but don't be in confusion about your appearance. It doesn't mean that who you are inside is your spirit, because the spirit and the soul are two different concepts. Spirit is non-local. The soul is localized inside of the Sahasrara chakra at the top, when the pineal's projection actually replenishes your mana, like I said it. But the true spirit in the beginning actually starts from Manipura, from the chakra in your chest, which is the solar plexus. And it goes all the way down to the bottom of your legs, to the feet. And I called those Padzakati, I think, which means feet chakra, and then Janumana for the knees. If you ask a Thai boxer or somebody who battles in MMA, they would tell you he's telling the truth, he's speaking honestly. We have a lot more than 7 chakras in our bodies. We have 36 at base, from the top to the bottom. It's not just the spinal, and we have 33 spinal nadis and marmas. But the nadis actually are far more than this. Now think that there are nadis, marmas, and chakras. Those are 3 different sizes of energy balls that are inside us, and they actually complete us as human bodies that are supernatural and paranormal, like Paramatma or Mahatma. But Gandhi was not a Mahatma. Gandhi was an imposter, not a prophet. He was not non-violent. He beat his wife, and he actually molested youth. He did all kinds of shit that you wouldn't want to think of in truth, and this is all proven. The person who assassinated him was an activist greater. But that's not the kind of shit you'd hear on the media, unless of course you dig in the proper independent ones, and they tell you the same kind of shit about Mother Teresa. I don't know if she was molesting anyone, but what I do know is that she was extremely privileged, and when she got sick she wouldn't even go in her own hospitals to heal, because she didn't trust the care she'd get in them in India. Remember, recuérdate. Don't be a greedy person. Don't be a seedy earthling, but there's no problem with seeding and birthing. If you do it consciously and honestly, farmers are necessary, they're very needed, but farmers are not rapists. They are not there to actually cull and herd herds of beings that are peaceful, that are the Sangha. The whole Sangha is contained within one being, and they're all sacred. It's not because you think that pork is haram, or that it's forbidden, that pigs are any less than anything or anyone, and they are no thing, because there is no thing in existence. It's all energy and consciousness, essentially. That is what Buddhists taught us. It took me 33 years in this existence to grasp it properly. I hope you get all of this. This is all off the top, no rehearsal, no anything. I thought there are many things in this existence I wish I could speak on, and I wish you could get it properly. I wish we didn't believe in property. I wish we didn't believe in monopoly as anything else than a board game. And if you had hotels and you had places like Boardwalk and beyond this, would you let people board there or walk upon it? Or would you be like, this is private property, I'll shoot you, or I shot you if you came upon it without proper, say, economic, financial boons instead of burdens? Now, are you a bane, or are you truly heard when you speak? Are you insane, or are you sane? Does it matter who defines what sanity is exactly? I am speaking this from the middle of nowhere in eastern Canada. I'm in Matapedia in Gaspesia, in a place they call St. Florence, just outside of a hamlet I couldn't even call a village. And I'm bored. I wish you could all come chill here. It's awesome to be here. I have spring water fed from the Appalachian Mountains in my backyard. I have all kinds of berries, wild apples, wild berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, gooseberries, just outside of my door, and I can go and pick them. But the thing is, I wouldn't even want to disrespect nature and walk on insects, so I open my window instead and pick the gooseberries that are hanging there. Can you imagine? But I have to go outside sometimes, and the thing is, I say some mantras in my head to Guanyin, to the bodhisattva of compassion supreme that's actually in my dreams, so I could respect nature. And I say, please reincarnate them in beings that are meant to be dragons and fays and elves, flower fairies and beyond this, so they can be all that they were meant to be, because existence is the conundrum of creation and destruction essentially. And we should all be aware of this. This is why Jains and Buddhists look down upon the ground so they don't walk on insects, and they watch when they're talking when they're outside so they don't swallow them accidentally. But it happens. It happened to me the other day, and I swallowed a black fly, and I thought, my apologies, I wish it hadn't happened. But it happens regardless, so please forgive this and honest. Just remember, I am no Buddha, I am no bodhisattva. It's impossible in this age according to patriarchal scriptures, but I was still born to be one. And I would tell you, all youth, which are the future, are born to be this, like Tirthankaras in the ethers. Like I said, we are the dreamers of dreams. We are the music makers. We are like the cosmic seamstress, but we are but one of the seams inside of her tapestry, endless, like the vast tapestries of the ethers. We are far from friendless, but please think. Please be conscious. I am bipolar, I am schizoaffective. I have been diagnosed with a diagnostic of a mental illness that tells me that I can never be anything else than disabled. But what is disabled? Die is actually twice. Roll the dice and see what happens. It's like somebody saying you're insane, but that's insanity. And if we are not humanity, we are womanity, woman. But I am not a woman. I wish I was. Sometimes I would think of it and say, what's the difference between a man and a woman? It's almost like the difference between a computer and a supercomputer. Do you get this? One of them has extra symbols upon it that actually make it far more complex, more emotionally available in many senses, but not necessarily more emotionally complex, I would say, and spiritually as well. I'm not trying to be, say, anti-men, but I am anti-patriarchal. I'm a matriarchal being that was born as such. I was raised by a single feminist mom, and I'm proud of her in many senses. But these days she sold herself out to the New World Order, and there are many ways in which I wish she was different. Regardless, I still try to honor the best parts of her and bring her back to existence whenever I can. Cook her food, offer her medicines, and take time to speak to her whenever she calls and tells me anything. And that's the only person left I have in my existence and my family that they call genetically related or blood kindred, except for the next generation. And I love my cousins, my half-brother, all of the beings that are a part of who I am, but a lot of them, we barely have time to talk. So I would say, if you're a friend, if you're a kin, and you hear this, please hit me up, Kalki Dasa. On Facebook, on Instagram, hit me up on my cell phone. It's pretty easy. I'll give you my number right now. Call me anytime. I promise you it's not a joke. I'm not sleazy either. I'm not trying to call upon people to say, hey, you know, hit me up and come chill and let's do something, Netflix and chill. No, if I say Netflix and chill, back in the days I said, yeah, I was chilling listening to Netflix. People are like, oh yeah, I get it. I'm like, no, I mean like we were chilling listening to Netflix. But it's fine to do the opposite as well. To be honest, I've done a lot of that. And Tantra is amazing. It's so blazing and radiant. Sometimes you could think, well, that's the evolution of existence. That's love that's unconditional, that's primordial. And I can't say I've been the best lover ever, but I've been far from the worst, I could tell you. And I've been one of the best in some ways, where all of my partners have told me. And I'd say I'm not trying to scold anyone who hasn't been that in the process of evolving, but still just remember, consent is essential. You always should renew that. Don't ever assume anything, because there is no thing in existence. But when you speak with your eyes, when you speak with your energy, that's Reiki. People trying to argue it doesn't exist, I'm like, come on, are you insane? And I mean that in an anti-ableist sense, because I am diagnosed with that illness or affliction that they call it. I'd say it's twice what they think it. And I'm glad to be a part of that. And again, this is Tokyo Lo-Fi Beats from Idylla. No promotion, this is non-profit, non-commercial. I didn't pay for any of this. This is non-rehearsed. Call it a mixtape, call it whatever you wish. But it's an honor to speak upon this, and thank you, Goddess, I really appreciate it. Thank you to who you are, and put a DESS in parenthesis if you're non-binary and don't relate. My apologies. I don't know who you are, but I'm grateful for all of this. I'm grateful to be alive, I'm grateful to be in nature, to see the hops outside of my window as I'm relating to this. And it's growing more and more, and the vines aren't choking anything, they're growing around the balcony. And pretty soon I'll have some hops hash, and I'll be able to make some brews. And I drank a whole bottle of wine, a liter today, and I was drinking some whiskey and coffee that's indigenous that I got on sale. I would say be careful what you're buying, try to be intersectional, try to be aware. Don't be lying about anything to anyone. Don't assume you have the privilege to buy whatever you wish just because you have the money. Money is a centralized currency that's an illusion. Those pieces of paper have you in confusion. Those coins and those printed faces upon them are evil racists most often than not. And I'm very grateful that there are many others upon it as well too that are changing the way that we relate to energy and currency. And I am a decentralized agent that's not an agent, but I am Asian in my diaspora, and I'm proud to relate to that. Now don't confuse those two parts, but there might be some relation, because if you think of agency, it actually means being able to be free, and I am agency. Sounds like I spoke this in French. My apologies if I don't freestyle more. French, or Quebecois rather, which is like patois or pidgin, or Michif or Creole is my first language, and that's a Métis language. So this is actually my third, but it's my second in colonial terms. And this is only a fraction of what you've heard. If this is the first time you hear me speaking, just remember this is a freestyle. My music is infinitely better. I promise you I'm not beaking or leaking anything that's deceptive or deceiving. Go listen to my music. Check out Ghost in the Machine. There's 7 main languages in there, 4 of which I never spoke or studied in my existence. The rest, French, English, and Spanish, is a part of who I am, but Spanish is my third language, colonially speaking at least. And I wouldn't call it Spanish, I'd rather call it Chicano, I'd rather call it Latino or Taino, but it's not exactly the same, it depends where you're from. See, if I was from Argentina, I would say I speak Argentinian. If I was from Mexico, I'd say I speak Mexican. If I was from Brazil, I'd say I speak Brazilian. I don't speak Portuguese, and I am Iberian. So I'd say I'm speaking Iberian dialect from back in the days of Atlantis and the root races like Lemuria. That's the land of Mu, Gigi Man and Melu. Plan tablets and tend to events like tablets of destiny. Si t'as vu ce que j'ai vu, tu me sens comme un buvard. That's a part of a freestyle that I did back in the days that's actually a free verse. Don't be acting amazed if I'm contradicting myself, it's just non-rehearsed. That's 1,000 bars, my house is water. I've made over 200 albums in the process of this existence, and that's all from me and mixed and mastered myself. But that's Akasha, that's inspiration, that's inspired by the ethers, by the rainbow tribes, by nature. Just checking for a second on the computer to see how much longer I have to spit this just to do it truly. It's an hour-long beats, and I wanted to make this properly. It's like I said, if I break beats, I don't want to break them and take a monopoly on this music. But I'd say just remember, like I said back in the days on Drunken Master, Wu-Tang is not for the children. Don't let anyone deceive you into thinking that this music industry is for anyone else than who they're inking it for, which is a bunch of people that they take for idiots that are actually gifted beyond comprehension and beyond comparison. Don't dare to think that just because there's actually some good parts and wisdom inside something that it means you should be listening. I'd say go listen to revoltmotion.com, go listen to Revolt Motion Records, Iapetus, Nuka Kun, Cane Corso, and everything. The whole mix together is actually over 5,000 albums. Maybe I'd say 2 or 3 or 500 artists depending, and we're all connected and we're all independent. So please support the real, don't support music that's actually disrespecting the next generations. Because if you go listen to the new music and people saying, like say back in the days, RZA was saying in Grave Diggers, sugar forces, sorcerers just get exhausted, see lips be dripping like leaky faucets. Can you imagine that? That's RZA from Wu-Tang Clan that was saying that shit, and it's still available online. Imagine Immortal Technique, and I'm not lying, where he's saying that he's stabbing a pregnant fat on a vomit-covered mattress while the fetus is doing backflips on his... That's on the Silence Revolution. I still checked it this morning, it's still online. And I was yelling in my mind saying, Tech, you better get that shit offline and kill yourself, cause you never needed to exist to spit that kind of shit. Now get off the shelves, wipe your entire collections, all of you. None of you deserve to actually have any music in this industry. It's all falling apart like the New World Order, just remember this.